a three-time Olympian in 94, 98, and 2002, a national champion in freestyle skiing, and she became the first aerial skier to perform both a double twisting triple somersault and triple twisting double somersault in competition. There are so many adjectives in there, I'm not sure that that could even be correct, but she also has really shown extraordinary and trailblazing efforts to ensure sports delivers on the promise of its power globally. So following a volunteer trip prompted by her mother to Rwanda and Africa in 2008, Evans found Kids Play International, which aims to promote gender equity and the Olympic values by introducing less familiar sports to children in post-genocide affected countries. And it's grounded in the Olympic value of fair play, and it leverages the positive attributes of sports to empower youth to challenge and shift gender, creates a safe, positive environment, and giving young girls the same opportunities as boys to reach their full potential and find better ways to live, work, and play together. So I'm so thrilled to welcome you to our national chapter meeting, Tracy. Do you want to say anything before we play the video?
Sure. Well, first off, thank you so much for the invitation tonight to chat with everybody, and obviously for the support from Dining for Women. I've said this to a number of the chapters that I've talked to already, and said, like, I just love the concept of how Dining for Women approaches this to fund projects. And for example, in Rwanda, it's only $6 to provide medical insurance for kids for an entire year. And kids will be kicked out of school if they don't have this medical insurance. And so I always go to, it's not how much you give, because a little donation goes so far. And so I love the way that all these chapters and everyone comes together, and you give what you can, and that's what's most important, is not the amount of money or the size of the donation. It's just really the fact that, like I said, a little bit of money goes a very long way, and we are just so thrilled to be supported by Dining for Women. And I believe, from what Vina mentioned, we're the first Sport for Development project that has been supported. So that's a very big honor for us as well. So thank you, guys.
Beth Ellen, you're muted.
Oh, yep.
If you have questions during, just write them in the chat and we'll address them afterwards.
Cambodia has a complicated history rife with conflict, like the Civil War and genocide of the 1970s that wiped out nearly 2 million of its citizens. Gender roles are deeply ingrained. Women in Cambodia are constrained by a patriarchal society with conservative cultural norms that value women less than men, creating inequality and depriving women of basic rights. This imbalance of power results in gender-based violence and keeps women in poverty. The dynamic is so unbalanced that in 2016, only 9% of Cambodian ministry-level government positions were made up of women, and only 1/3 of senior and middle management positions were women. Right now is a critical time to shift the male-dominant culture of Cambodia. Nearly 60% of the population is currently under the age of 25. This is a unique opportunity to educate this next generation not only around the importance of equal rights for girls and women, but how by challenging these gender, social, and cultural biases helps to also create supportive boys and men. ultimately lifting up an entire society and country. Kids Play International has been implementing after-school gender equity programs for the last 10 years and have had major success in Rwanda.
Because gender equity is a behavioral change, we have decided to embed ourselves long-term into communities. So we have 3 programs that are after-school programs where kids enter our program at age 7 and don't exit and graduate until age 18. Again, so that they have time to shift their thoughts, their attitudes, their behaviors around gender equity.
They have been able to make real, lasting change through a very simple medium: sport. Founded by Olympic freestyle skier Tracy Evans, KPI is invested in embedding themselves long-term in Cambodia and making the same cultural shifts they have seen in Rwanda. Why sport? When boys and girls learn a new sport, they are engaged, active, and having fun. KPI has proven that sport can be a powerful catalyst for social change by emphasizing the Olympic values of fair play, excellence, and friendship. Using less familiar sports, KPI's programming helps to level the playing field more quickly so that boys and girls can find healthier ways to play, work, and live together.
So that's why in our program, they talk a new sports like baseball. So everybody didn't know, even me. So that's why we have chance to play together.
In just 1 year in KPI, Cambodian boys like Hua are already changing the way they see girls. In August 2019, 98% of players in Cambodia said they equally respect a male and female coach who teach them sports. This is huge progress, as only 59% of the same players agreed with that when they started the program just a year earlier. With the support of Dining for Women, Kids Play International is able to launch our All Girls United program and Playfair workshops. Our All Girls United programming is designed to teach girls about fundamental topics like menstrual hygiene and sexual reproductive health that allow for informed decision-making in their lives. These sessions promote self-efficacy in our girls and teach valuable leadership skills that they can continue to use in our weekly Let's Play Fair and Community Day programs. Our Playfair inclusion workshops will include training of 7 female coaches and up to 30 of our All Girls United youth to be facilitators, allowing us to share our gender equity mission beyond just the 100 youth in our program. These workshops aim to create more gender-inclusive classrooms in our partner schools, improve the trust and relationships between adults and youth, and promote our female facilitators as knowledgeable and capable leaders in the community.
We start from sport and we're gonna change the behavior for the work or another job in home or school. The KPI brought sport, fun, and educate. So everybody learn together, play together, and have fun together.
We believe in the work we are doing and the impact that we can make with your help. Cambodian girls deserve to be part of the global conversation. By empowering young girls and creating supportive boys, we're creating a culture where harmful societal norms can be shifted towards gender equality, allowing these women a chance to forge their own futures and feel free to use their voices in the world. We are grateful to see the positive impact that sport is making not only on their lives, but also in the lives of the women and men around them. We look forward to expanding the Let's Play Fair program and reaching over 2,000 community members through the great unifier of sport.
It looks like there are a couple questions. That was just an amazing video, Tracy. I mean, everything about it was wonderful. Do you want to talk about the program and the DFW grant?
I'm happy to take whatever approach. I have a short PowerPoint, but I mean the video.
Oh yes, yes. Please do your PowerPoint.
That. I mean
Yes.
Definitely the video does a good job at I think also being able to give you a visual, which I think is so much better than me even sometimes talking about it. But I'm happy to walk through the PowerPoint briefly.
Please.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
please.
Great. All right. Let me share my screen. Hopefully I know how to do this. Let's see here. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, like I said, I think always playing the video first is, I think it just hopefully gives you a little bit more of a visual around what happens a little bit on the ground and the situation, obviously, and the little bit of history behind Cambodia. Like the video says, I mean, our program, the focus of our program is really to help empower girls and educate and develop supportive boys so that everyone can understand how they can contribute to a better society. Obviously, sports is, we believe that sport is a very, very powerful medium for reimagining these gender norms. And obviously, as an Olympian, sport has had a profound impact on my life. But I don't think that I really truly understood the real power of sport until I went on this volunteer trip back in 2008 and saw just how quickly, peacefully, organically, sport does break down those harmful gender, social, cultural barriers between boys and girls so that they can each see how they contribute to a better society. On my volunteer trip, we just happened to have a group that wanted to play sport. So we played soccer, of course, with the kids first, and it was super challenging. Boys didn't want to play with the girls. Girls didn't want to play with the boys. And I was thinking, wow, this is going to be a really long 2 weeks. But the next day, we actually pulled out softball, baseball, and they'd never heard of the sport, don't know any of the rules around it, knew nothing about it. So it really shifted that entire dynamic between boys and girls because there's no preconceived idea of who should be better, faster, stronger, or if girls should even be playing the sport. And, for me, usually on volunteer trips, you end up connecting with someone that a child that, you just happen to strike a, like I said, a connection with. And Thomas is a little boy, 10 years old at the time, that came up to me at the end of the trip that I had connected with and said, I see girls can play. And this was, in less than 2 weeks, this little boy was able to shift the way that he thought about the capabilities and contributions of a girl. And for me, that was just such a profound moment in thinking about, obviously, how much, sport has given me and how much I, can use sport to teach life lessons. But to be able to, see how this little boy was able to change his thoughts about a girl was really, really powerful to me in a very short amount of time. So obviously I came back and, over the past 10 years, we have been, creating gender equity programs in Rwanda. And that's where our flagship program is, that really, looks and uses, obviously, Olympic values and our 5 play fair skills to promote gender equity between boys and girls. And, Cambodia obviously faces inequality and, within many aspects of society, including education, healthcare, social status. But research has shown that by promoting gender equity actually helps to deconstruct the segregation and promote integration between boys and girls and men and women, creating a society where all human rights are respected. And what I love about the way that our program has been designed is that it is a community within a community. It's where, it's a community where boys and girls through our programs can really learn and try on, so to speak, and practice new ways of interacting, dialoguing with one another through sport, of course. And then, so that over time we can slowly shift and mold attitudes and behaviors and rewire a cohort and generation of youth to view gender and the roles of women and girls in Cambodia differently. Quickly, just, the way that our program is built out is that it is ultimately about building a better community that is more equitable. And we have a number of programs that actually support that. So it's very multi-layered community approach. And each one of the programs really, they build upon each other and layer upon one another. And we're so excited because Dining for Women's grant actually allows us to deepen and expand the programs that we're building with women's leadership through sport. So this is the approach in our program really runs very parallel to one another. And the way that all of our programs work is through having an informal time, an opening circle where we're activating all the kids' voices, bodies, and we're connecting with one another. And then it moves on to the meat of the program, so to speak, which is the sport-based learning activities, the skills and drills and scrimmage. I'll give you a really quick, simplistic example of how we thread sport and a lesson through the skills and drills. We would perhaps use one of our Playfair skills of respect, and part of that is knowing someone's story. So it's getting to know one another. And perhaps we're using volleyball. So we're practicing the skill of bumping the ball back and forth with, between the players, the girls and the boys. But before they're actually bumping and working on this skill, they're either introducing themselves, they're sharing something about themselves, maybe how many siblings they have, what's their favorite sport, what's their favorite subject in school. So you're learning something about the person as you're actually also working on a skill. So it's about leadership, it's about communication, it's about learning about one another. And then you move on to team time, which is where that transfer of the lesson into daily life happens. So the coaches will lead a conversation with the kids about what they learned through the sport, but then now how do you take that and practice it outside of the program, in school, at home, in the community? So that transfer of being able to take what you're learning inside the program and share it outside the program is very organic, and it happens differently for different kids depending on how comfortable they are sharing. And we always send them out with homework, but like I said, when they come back to program and we ask them how the homework went for them, and some of them said they were too afraid to do it. Some of them said that this is what I did, and it made me feel like this, but I was able to kind of push myself out of my comfort zone. Let's see. So this is just kind of going over what the Dining for Women activities actually are. And like I said, it's really going to help us launch our All Girls United program, our camps, and then also to be able to really deliver training and facilitation skills so that these girls and our female coaches will be able to deliver this Playfair workshop to not only the boys and the male coaches, but also to our community, and then also to the teachers and students within our partner schools. The reason the workshops came about was that in Rwanda, we had our headmasters come to us asking us how we could share some of our best practices, because they saw that our coaches who are teachers were actually teaching differently within their classrooms. They were creating a more gender equitable classroom. They were taking more of that learner-centered approach rather than that rote style of teaching. So they had the kids working in small mixed partner groups to discuss questions. They would have kids come to the front of the classroom to share what they were talking about. And so this really made us think about how can we share two things. How can we share these 5 Playfair skills of respect, community, contribution, opportunity, and moral courage to create a more gender equitable environment, but also how do you build better relationships between whether it's a coach player, a teacher student, a parent child. It's about that relationship building aspect. So like I said, we were able to go back to our curriculum developers in Boston and have them help us build out these modules around each to help us do that. So it gives us such a platform to allow us to train the girls and coaches in our program to be able to show that they are capable, competent facilitators and leaders. And So that's what, you know, we're super excited to be able to obviously do a lot with the activities through Dining for Women. And really, these are just some fun quotes. And, you know, we've only been in Cambodia for about a year and a half. Oh, be about 2 years, first in November. So, but these are just some great quotes that, you know, basically coming from the words of the kids. And we're just super excited to be able to launch the grant here in October, and just really appreciate the support from Dining for Women. I think that that's just kind of, I want to leave enough time to just kind of answer some specific questions, hopefully from some folks, if that works for you.
Sure, Tracy, I've kind of taken some notes of the questions that have come in the chat. And the first one is, with so many schools closed down due to COVID, how are you able to maintain this program? I mean, and I'd be interested in knowing both in Cambodia and in Rwanda.
Yeah, that's a great question. So obviously everything in both programs shut down in March, and our coaches on the ground were able to be able to check in with the families periodically. And what we found most, obviously most, you know, I don't know, importantly, it was that they weren't eating. Many of the families had not eaten in days. And so we were able to actually pivot and be able to move some of our funding that we have to do a food distribution. And we did this in partnership with, in Cambodia, we did in partnership with the Spitler School Foundation. And what we had also found was that the information, you know, that they had heard about COVID, we're talking about a very rural community. So there's not radios, there's not TV, there's not, you know, education that is being, you know, put out to the families in our community. So what we did, in addition to a food distribution, was that we did some parent education sessions around COVID in regard to just even debunking a lot of the misinformation. One of the crazy thoughts they had was that, or that they had heard, was that anyone over 40 was going to die. And it didn't matter if you had a symptom or not. It was just kind of a very, obviously, you know, misinformation. So we were able to give them some information on COVID. And so we started this in April, and we have continued doing food distribution with our families. It's continuing right now. And, you know, if there's a silver lining in this a little bit, is that, you know, when you're working in a community, you have to build trust with them. And I think, you know, there's so many, you know, these communities are so used to people coming in and leaving very quickly, or just being there for a short amount of time, or if the times get tough, they're out of there. So for us to be able to show our community that we are able to not only support them, especially during a very difficult time, but to also, you know, provide them with some education around what was happening, just absolutely allowed us to more quickly build these really positive, trusting relationships with the families that we're working with in the community. One of the interesting, so you know, we were doing these on a monthly basis while everything was shut down. So we were still able to, you know, do food distribution and do some education sessions. And we did some around gender equity in the home. We talked about food distribution and making sure that kids are also eating, because a lot of times the distribution of food, even in the home, goes more toward the adults. And so just making sure that everyone's getting food in the family, and talking about some of the public health aspects of washing your hands and all of that. So when we are able to actually start the program up again, we insisted that everybody, all the families were coming back to sign off on the kids coming back to program. One, because we wanted to make sure that obviously they knew what our protocols were we were doing smaller groups, and rotating them at different times of the day. And then also we were doing temperature checks, we're doing hand washing, we're doing, obviously everyone has a mask, and we're doing non-contact sports right now so that there's no, balls that are getting passed around and things like that. But also one of the things we did is we did a focus group discussion with both the kids and the parents about how this impacted them when they were in isolation. And a lot, we were very surprised from obviously the parents that it brought up a lot of that genocide trauma that, because they didn't have information, all they were told is that you were not to leave your house and do not talk to your neighbors. And all that, like I said, that really made them, it really obviously brought up some very bad memories for a lot of the older generation. And I think one of the things to remember is that, like the video said, the population is about 65% of the population is 25 years and younger. And then you have the older population that lived through the genocide, and you have this massive gap in between. So you're really combating that intergenerational trauma and how it trickles down into this younger generation. And the older generation doesn't have those abilities and the healthy coping mechanisms that they just don't have. They don't have those resources and those skills. So a lot of it does get passed down to obviously the younger generations. But it was really, they said, being able to have this education session every month allowed them to feel a bit more, informed and educated about what was really going on. Because at the onset, they were all very terrified about, they didn't know if someone was just going to show up, into their village and just because they weren't able to have the right information handed out to them.
Wow, that makes so much sense when you talk about that bringing back the trauma of the genocide, especially in Rwanda, and don't talk to your neighbors, and that is just so familiar to them and so scary. Another question we had was actually, how did you decide to move from Africa to Cambodia?
I just blame it all on my mom. So my mom is a nurse, and she has done a lot of medical volunteer work all over the world, a lot of public health stuff. And so she was the one. I always say the countries pick me. I don't really pick the countries. I just, my mom was working in Rwanda. I was over there just to, also check out the project she was working in. And I was kind of looking around the country. I really wanted to work in a rural community. So anyway, she was working in a community doing a medical project, and I was I don't know. Like I said, it's really hard for me to really explain why, but there was nothing down in this rural community. She had raised some money to also build a well, and the well is still there today. And so the gentleman that introduced her to the community in which he was, that he was born and raised in, he's just such an amazing man, and he lost his entire family to the genocide and really wanted to also give back to his community, and he loved sport. And so when I was talking with him about it, it just felt like the right fit. So now my mother has been working in Cambodia for the last 10 years. She's 83 years old. She's still chomping at the bit to get back there right now. And I was just over on another trip with her, and I really have always wanted to see Cambodia. And so I went over there. She was working and doing some projects with the Spitler School. So I was like, wow, this is another really rural village area that I would love to work in. And I don't know, it's difficult enough for girls and women in developing countries. When you throw a genocide, another layer on top of that, it is really, I don't look at the negative aspect of it. I look at how resilient these people are, and just how these women and pick up the pieces. In Rwanda after the genocide, it was 70% women, and here you are in a very patriarchal society trying to pick up the pieces of what family you had left, and yet still trying to do all the all the things that men were supposed to do. So the genocides in the countries are different in what happened, but similar in the impact it had on women. So yeah, I'm not even sure if I answered your question.
No, you did.
All
You
of a
did.
sudden, I'm
And
just like,
I would
where
just
was
like
I
to
going?
go on with my own questions, but here's a couple more from our
Yeah.
group. So often children in rural villages are expected to help their parents after school with household chores and whatnot. Did you have to work with the parents to kind of get their support for the kids participating?
Absolutely. Yep, for sure. So, and just to give you an idea, like I had gone to Cambodia with my mother over, I don't know, 6-7 years ago. And so I kept going back every year and doing assessments within this community and getting to know the Spittler schools better, because they had been in that community for over 10 years at that time. And getting to know the chiefs and doing some focus group discussions within the community with parents, and to get, I think the most important thing to always do in a community program is to understand what the current beliefs and values are from the parents, because you have to understand where they're coming from, in their culture and in their traditions, and then be able to very organically. And one of the great things I did with a group of people that I brought over with me was that the men love to be engaged in the activities, as do the women. The women are always game to do anything, but it's hard to get the men engaged. So when we were talking about sport and coming to do something around sport, we got a lot of men that actually came. And so it was a really great opportunity to also do some poster work that I was, kind of sent over with, through the curriculum developers that I work with, about, for one example, quick, is like the men would write down all the things that they do throughout the day. And then the women write down all the things they do in the day. And the lists were like, clearly the women's list was like 10 times longer than the men. And the men were like, whoa, really? And, it gets, and so then the other aspect of that was to then say to the men, what are some things in this list that you think maybe you could help with, or that you're capable of helping with? And so you would see actually the men circle quite a few of those things that they could help with. But it's just, it's getting them to just even have the ability to interact with one another and talk about this, and then think about like, wow, I can actually help contribute. And here are also the realization of all the things that women do throughout the day. So anyway, so that's, it's about building, again, it's about building that trust. And you'd be so, it's about educating the kids for sure, but it's also about paralleling and making sure that those parents are being educated as well about what you're educating the kids on. It's a combination of both. And so you get more of the buy-in once you have actually given some education around why it's important to have girls in, to keep girls in school. And we all, it's always been told and known that if you educate a girl, you educate a country, and girls and women give back to their families. Whereas men don't have, don't typically do that as much. So, and we do have incentives for obviously kids being in our program, with doing food distribution, with also covering all the school costs and for kids to be in school. And once you have explained that this is not just a sports program, it's not just like us going out and playing soccer all day, that there's a lot more to it. It's a lot more robust of a program. We really have not had a lot of pushback. It is just simply about educating the families about what the program does and also including them. And that's why that community day on Sundays is so important in our program. Our Let's Play Fair program is Monday through Thursday. And then what that community does is build that bridge between being able to have the kids in our program share that lesson with kids that are not in our program all the time, and with the adults that come as well, and about what we're learning. And it gives parents and adults that opportunity to be able to see the way that these youth are able to lead, and be able to see them in a different light, and learn, about what their capabilities are also of. So
that I think we'll just have time for one last question. It's kind of related. Linda would like to know, and so would I, what is an example of the homework that you mentioned? And you said how some of them might say, oh no, I was too afraid to do it. Give us an example.
Yeah, that's a great question. So for like respect and know someone's story, what we would do is say, you know what, when you're at school, go up to somebody that you do not know and ask them even what their name is. Ask them something about themselves. Again, just simply being able to, and a lot of times we'll say, and if you really, really want to push yourself out of your comfort zone, go talk to someone of the opposite gender and ask them something about themselves. And because respect is also just simply taking the time to get to know somebody else's story, something else about somebody else. And also, a lot of times what we talk about when the kids are going outside is that if you see outside the program in school, if you see a kid having a hard time, or is being, even bullied by somebody else, to be able to, step in and ask why they're having a bad day, and taking the time to get to know something about them rather than just judging them on the way that they're acting and not knowing why they might be acting that way. But yeah, the homework would be, again, so when they would come back to us, the next time we'd have program, we'd say like, so who was able to talk to somebody new? Tell me the person's name. Tell me something new you learned about that person. If you didn't do it, why didn't you do it? What was it that we can support you in to think about trying to do it the next time around? Or if someone did do it, to say like, how did it make you feel? How did the other person, respond to you? So that's just a really simplistic, example.
That's great. So I think we'll wrap up the questions, but I encourage you to read through the rest of the chat as we go on because there's some great comments, a chapter that's already had their meeting and that their members love the program. I have to say, this has become one of my favorites now as well. So thank you for answering the questions, and please check out the chat. And Beth Ellen, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Tracy. I mean, clearly our members love your organization, and that you are now part of Dining for Women. That's really important to us, and we're thrilled to have you. Wendy says it's now her favorite program. Let me tell you, every program at Dining for Women is our favorite, and CCFC, which Community Cloud Forest Conservation, which is a sustained grantee, meaning we gave them a featured grant years ago, and now they're on a 3-year $75,000 grant. They get $25,000 a year. And Casey Henry, regional leader, CPA, cat lover in Texas, is going to present this organization, and I am just going to turn it over to Casey with the fabulous glasses.
Thank you so much, Beth Ellen. I'm so happy to be here with all of you tonight. Tracy, thanks for sharing your story about KPI. It's a wonderful organization, and I'm excited to be able to talk about another wonderful organization with all of you. So Wendy, I do have a PowerPoint presentation to share if I'm able to share my screen. Okay.
Sorry, you couldn't hear me, could you? Yes.
I could read your lips.
Thank you.
Okay, can you all see the PowerPoint now?
Yes.
Yes, okay, great, thank you. So Community Cloud Forest Conservation is a nonprofit organization based in Guatemala. They alleviate poverty and protect forests through education, reforestation, sustainable development, leadership training, and ecological improvements to agriculture. CCFC believes that holistic human and community development through education and capacity building is the key to conservation and development in Guatemala's Central Highlands. Education, especially for young women, is the key to building peace in this region. The program that DFW is supporting is called Women in Agroecology Leadership for Conservation, or WALC. So that's how I'm going to refer to it because it's a mouthful, which teaches young women to use sustainable farming methods and to make marketable products. The impact of, well, let's start with where they are. They are located in Guatemala in the Central Highlands, the cloud forest region of that area. The life challenges of the women in that area include extreme poverty, chronic malnutrition, high rates of maternal and infant mortality, deforestation, and ecosystem degradation. The dropout rate for girls moving from 6th to 7th grade in the villages of CCFC's work is higher than 75%. And through the WALK program, the same demographic have less than a 5% dropout rate. Also in the region, virtually 100% of the population is living in poverty or extreme poverty, and the illiteracy rate for women over 35 is about 95% as well. The areas of impact for this grant are economic sustainability, education, and environmental sustainability. And the WALK program specifically is a holistic leadership training program for the Mayan young women from remote mountain villages at the edge of the cloud forest corridor. As we've talked about, these women face poverty, malnutrition, high rates of maternal and infant mortality, and deforestation and ecosystem degradation. And although the program has a strong focus on agroecology, WALK students also learn about nutrition, cooking, health and hygiene, family planning, career and educational options, self-esteem and confidence building, and a large array of other life skills. So as we talked about, it really is a holistic program to help these young girls. The goal is to equip each participant for a productive, healthy, and happy life, as well as to enable her to be an agent of positive change in her family, community, and village. These young women are going to transform the agricultural practices of their villages by being empowered and equipped to lead, and WALK helps them stay in school and fulfill their dreams of an education. So one of the other benefits of this program is that currently, on average, women comprise about 43% of the agricultural labor force in developing countries, yet their access to productive assets is significantly less than their male counterparts. As we know, as members of Dining for Women, if we elevate women and help them become self-sufficient, it improves not only their lives, but the entire community around them. And this program allows opportunities for education and more ownership in the agricultural and production realm. So as Beth Ellen mentioned, the WALK program with CCFC was a featured grantee back in 2015 for Dining for Women. And as part of that program, part of that funding in 2015, CCFC was able to make the WALK experience available to 80 more young women each year. So now, as a sustained grantee, CCFC will be supported by DFW for 3 years, and that grant permits CFC to expand the WALK program to benefit mothers and sisters of WALK participants and to increase the outreach through the villages. Through this project, you can see how it's divided between coordinator internships, MOSWALK, which means mothers and sisters of WALK participants, and then WALK in the village leaders. So this project will reach over 16,000 people, provide leadership training and poverty alleviating skills, and 153 young women annually will be intensively trained as community leaders through the program. And we love this project because it focuses on girls' empowerment, education, agroecology, and sustainability. The focus of CCFC in developing partnerships bodes well for the sustainability of its goals. And we also have an update from Rob Cahill, who is one of the founding directors of CCFC. He gave us an update last month about the impacts of COVID-19 on their projects. And he told us that 2020 started really well. They had just come off their best WALK session ever in the fall of 2019. They were able to invite back some of the best and brightest to take advantage of the advanced program. They had students from primary schools and secondary schools that were visiting and learning from the advanced interns. And on weekends, those students would attend different universities to continue their studies. They had already had over 700 secondary school students start the program in 2020, and then COVID-19 hit. And first they got word that the school had canceled all of their off-campus field trips, and then they heard that the boarding schools were sending their students home. They gave their team the choice to shelter in place at the center or to return to their homes. And for the first few weeks, they had about 10 students that remained. They were able to get a lot done in terms of the agroforestry parcels, reforestation, and other projects around the campus. And as of August, all but 5 of the team have returned home. However, they are able to participate online. The advanced walk interns are still studying with them and still part of the team. And they're able to visit neighboring villages and promote the program that way. So the team continues. They're all connected to each other through WhatsApp. And even though they don't have the full team with them, they're still able to get a lot done, because in Guatemala, even before the lockdown, food insecurity was a severe issue. Back in August, the United Nations Agency on Food and Agriculture published a list of the countries most at risk of food insecurity due to COVID-19, and Guatemala was one of the only few countries in the Western Hemisphere to make that list. Because of WALK and the program itself and what they do for the young girls, it's still been successful throughout the pandemic, because they are able to provide those parcels to their families in this time of need. They're able to share them with their neighbors. They've been able to take the lessons they learned from the program and divide and multiply their sources and share with their communities around them. So the students are really grateful to have had this program in place for them. So that's what I've got. Now we've got a little video to watch about the program.
Can you stop sharing your screen and then I'll play the video?
Yes, I think I can. Let me figure out how to do that. Well, let's see. Sorry.
I think I might be able to do it for you here. There we go.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Oops. Sorry guys, just give me a sec. Got a lot of screens up
here. Oh. All right, I was just going to say something, but you did it.
Well, not quite. Go ahead and say something.
Okay. Well, last week we had, we were really fortunate to have people from CCFC on our call, and we had 2 young women zooming in from their villages, and one spoke English quite well and another was translated, and it was just such a wonderful experience, and to see their villages in the background. If you want to see them speak, I think you can go. We have posted the recording from last week, so I would encourage you to go see that. It was really inspiring to be directly connected with them, and I hope that we can do more of that kind of thing in the future, at least when they're in this hemisphere.
All right, I think we're set.
All right.
Muchos dicen que la mujer no tiene derecho, pero nosotras las mujeres tenemos el derecho.
Bueno, la educación es la base fundamental de la vida de los seres humanos. Cada mujer tiene derecho de tomar sus decisiones, porque cada uno sabe lo que hace.
Entre más lejanas las aldeas, más difícil los retos que afrontan en sus vidas. Niñas y señoritas de aldeas rurales lejanas afrentan muchos obstáculos en sus vidas. Pobreza, desnutrición crónica, niñas teniendo hijos muy jóvenes, y formando una familia grande. Lo peor de todo, las niñas no tienen la oportunidad de poder estudiar en la escuela.
Community Cloud Forest Conservation works in 150 remote mountain villages in Guatemala.
Hay un punto clave en la vida de esas niñas. Es lograr lanzar desde sexto primaria a perseguir educación secundaria. El programa WAC abre el camino para seguir adelante en la educación.
The CCFC Women in Agroecology Leadership for Conservation program opens our path forward to empowerment.
En el programa WAC se identifican líderes.
The WALK program functions through peer leadership. WALK leaders receive special training and preparation. Many WALK leaders return to CCFC as WALK interns. WALK interns also teach mothers and sisters of WALK students. WALK interns gain many forms of teaching experience. Some WALK interns desire to continue to study in university. Thanks to Dining for Women, CCFC will add advanced WALK internship opportunities and benefits. Norma and her sister Gloria are two CCFC WALK interns. They each have been participating in WALK for 6 years. In 5th grade, Norma and Gloria first came to CCFC's Kids and Birds program. They entered WALK right out of 6th grade. They have progressed from WALK participants to WALK group leaders to WALK mini course instructors. Today, they are studying to be teachers. Norma will graduate from high school this year and Gloria next year. While they continue in their studies, they are teaching in the Kids and Birds program. Mondays through Thursdays, they teach for CCFC. On Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, they go to school. Norma is now student teaching since she is in her last year. Although she is taking time off from Kids and Birds, Norma brings all her new skills to the primary school classroom. Next year, Norma is a candidate for an advanced WALK internship that will support her to go to the university to become a licensed teacher. Advanced WALK internships funded by Dining for Women meet two very real needs. These internships provide critically needed next-level leadership for CCFC, and they support young women like Norma and Gloria to continue studying through university.
Thank you so much, Casey, for presenting. That was wonderful. Are there any questions here, Wendy, that we want to go over?
Not that I see. So if anyone has any questions, just pipe up now.
While people are considering questions, and you might want to write in there, I just want to again remind everybody we have a fabulous advocacy program where we're advocating for the international affairs budget, particularly to help international communities, global communities with COVID-related funding. And I encourage you to look on our website about that. Wendy can put, or Sheila can put in the link to our advocacy program. We also have the upcoming book group can you tell the name of the book, Casey, for me?
Yes, the name of the book is Beyond the Beautiful Forevers, and it's by Catherine Boo.
I have heard wonderful things about it. I've got to try to get on it and read it this weekend. The meeting is the October 13th. Is that right?
October
No.
3rd.
October 3rd. I had the 3 right. Okay,
I think
sorry.
it's October 7th.
October 7th. I'm sorry. We'll get it right eventually.
Sorry, we've been a little bit distracted lately in a home office. So October 7th is our National Book Club meeting. And I hope that we would see you all there. We had a great time last time with Melinda Gates, the Moment of Lift. And we also just want to thank you for continuing to support recurring donations. All of you, our members, stepped up in a huge way, and we were able to meet our fabulous recurring donation goal of 300 new recurring donations by the 3 months early than we thought we would. It was just incredible. So thank you so much. And any questions that we want to ask? All right, well, Wendy and I will stay, and maybe Sheila will stay on for a few minutes more if anyone just wants to chat or ask questions. But thank you everyone for joining us, and have a wonderful evening, a safe next week. And I hope that you, wherever you are, you have clean air now, if not soon. Thanks. Bye.
That was great, Casey. Thank you so much.
Oh, she left.
Message her too.
And Tracy was awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Is
That
she still
was-
on, or did she had to leave, eh?
She had to leave.
Yeah,
That was great. Boy, ended on time. It didn't look like, well, almost on time. It looked like it was going to go way over there for a while.
Yeah, but no, it was good. It was good.
We pulled it back on track. So, all right.
Sounds good. Have a good night.
Have a great night.
Thank you so much, Sheila.
Oh yeah, I didn't do anything.
It took 2 of us tonight, Bethel.
Yeah, well, it's a team effort. Thanks.
Only because of me. Thanks. Good night.
Bye.